Welcome. Last little snippet before we really launch into World War II. We're talking about Germany's road to World War II. The last couple of incidents and crises that sort of prompted us into war. So pay attention. All right. So after the Anschluss, which we know that Germany is going to absorb Austria, Czechoslovakia was next. All right, and basically, a free and hostile Czechoslovakia would make it impossible for Germany to sort of fight a war in the West. So, as we look back on the events that led up to World War II, this is key. All right, and of course, Germany lost a lot of land and territory as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. And Czechoslovakia's land was deep into German territory. So, Czechoslovakia had really a modern and well equipped army. And they didn't necessarily see um, it they didn't necessarily know or have any fears, I should say, about a possible invasion because of the backing from Britain and France. All right, and one of the key facts that you should know is the fact that Czechoslovakia had a population that included more than 3.5 Germans. All right, so this, of course, was going to give Hitler even more ammunition to sort of invade Czechoslovakia. And this is part of the Sudetenland, all right, which is right on the German-Czech border, all right. And the Czechs knew that they could not surrender this Sudetenland. It would definitely make them defenseless against the Germans. And um, needless to say, when Hitler put these demands on Czechoslovakia, Britain nor France, of course, wanted to fight against Germany, all right. And of course, one wouldn't go without the other. Therefore, it was sort of still in this time period and this policy of appeasement that we're following. All right. So, um, Chamberlain met Hitler in September 1938 to quote unquote find a peaceful solution to the problem. Once again, this policy of appeasement. All right. And Hitler made it clear that the crisis, could be solved only by the transfer of the Sudetenland to Germany. So this was his only intention, his only aim, and of course he's going to use the rationale that the Germans were living there, and this was one of those unfair boundary changes and that was forced upon Germany after World War I. All right. Of course, Chamberlain did not object as long as the transfer was done peacefully, and so the Czechs were forced to give up the Sudetenland because they had no international allies. They had no one to sort of protect them or back them up. All right. And also, Chamberlain returned to Germany, and Hitler demanded that not only the Sudetenland be given up, but also Czech territory in Hungary and Poland. All right, not only the Czech territory, but Hungary and Poland be met. And if his demands were not met by 1 October 1938, Germany would invade Czechoslovakia. All right. Now, so we're going to have this Munich Conference. All right. And this was actually called, by Mussolini for this Four Powers Conference to sort of figure out a way that we could peacefully settle these disputes. All right. And of course, Great Britain, they did not want to go to war, and Chamberlain was desperate for any solution that avoided war, and Hitler saw this as a means to get everything he wanted, all of his demands met without fighting. So the four powers, Hitler, of course, from Germany, Daladier, who was the French Prime Minister, Chamberlain, and Mussolini, they met, and basically they gave Hitler all the terms of his demands. All right. So this enabled Britain and France to claim that Czechoslovakia, quote unquote, had been saved. All right. Now, a couple of key facts about this conference: the fact that the Soviets were not invited, all right, and the Czechs were not consulted and had no choice. All they could do was agree. All right. And Chamberlain and Hitler are going to go off and sign this Anglo-German declaration, of course, promising never to go to war again with each other. But we kind of know that that was just for show. Hitler's part, and Chamberlain announced to the British people, "I believe this is quote unquote peace for our time." However, by 10 October 1938, the German completed their occupation of the Sudetenland, and Czechoslovakia was now defenseless. All right, you see all the Czechoslovakian territory here on this map that they lost after the Munich Agreement. All right, and not only did they lose land to Germany, but they lost land to Hungary and Poland. So of course, this is severely going to limit the size of Czechoslovakia. All right, so and if you can see here, where Czechoslovakia sort of was carved out, we see that there are there's a lot of German territory. So now, Chamberlain thought, of course, this was peace for our time, and this Munich Agreement was going to help keep the peace. However, we know that he was wrong, because in March 1939, Hitler ordered his armies to occupy Bohemia and Moravia, two parts of Czechoslovakia that had been protected by the Munich Agreement. So once again, what can you see here? Bohemia on this map, and you also see Slovakia. All right, and so now the Germans have actually moved into this territory. All right, now Czechoslovakia had ceased to exist, and in 23 March 1939, Hitler seized Memel from Lithuania. So once again, you see more land that Hitler sort of taking. And after this breach of this Munich Agreement and the German occupation of Czechoslovakia, it became clear, including Britain and France, that this policy of appeasement was not working. It did not work, and it was dead. All right. So Chamberlain promised Poland that Britain would guarantee its independence, meaning that we're on the brink of war. If Hitler decides to go and invade Poland, Britain is going to protect Poland. All right. So when you come to class, I want you to think that there are so many strong opinions about this whole policy of appeasement, and historians often blame Chamberlain for appeasing so long, and others look at it from the perspective that that was his only option at this time. So we want to look at some of the arguments from both. So just keep that in mind. So we know that on September 1st, 1939, Hitler's actually going to invade Poland. All right, after Czechoslovakia, Hitler would claim Poland next. All right. So, of course, Germany had claims on this Polish territory. We talked about the Polish corridor. All right, and this is going to split East Prussia from the rest of Germany. All right, of course, this was taken from Germany under the Treaty of Versailles, and of course, the city of Danzig, which is a free city under the League of Nations control. All right, and Hitler wanted these territories back. He looked at it from the perspective of this Polish territory was Lebensraum, or living space for the Germans. Okay. Now, Britain's guarantee to preserve, of course, we know this independence of Poland, made the Poles feel a little bit safer. They figured they had some backing in the international community. However, there was little Britain and France could do to stop the invasion of Poland. Of course, Poland is going to look for help elsewhere, and of course, the Soviet Union couldn't help, and there was a distrust between the two sides, and communication broke down. All right. So we're going to see actually Germany is going to have an alternative to this. Instead of letting the Poles turn to the Soviets, and of course after that communication broke down, there's going to be this Nazi-Soviet Pact, all right, which is an agreement signed in Moscow between the ministers of the Soviet Union and Germany. Of course, this was a non-aggression pact, and they promised not to fight each other. Now, all the way up until this time, of course, the Soviets, they had their secret agreements. Remember, if we think back to the early 20s with the Treaty of Apollo and so forth and so on, those secret agreements between each other. So this is nothing new. All right, this is actually, been in the making, I guess, so to speak. And of course, the fact that the Soviet Union had been shunned by the international community, so to speak, also played a role in it. So basically, with this Nazi-Soviet pact, they secretly agreed to split up Poland between them. All right, and of course, this left Britain and France to fight Germany alone. They didn't have any kind of aid or support from the Soviet Union. All right, so basically, after the Nazi-Soviet pact, there was a formal alliance with Poland on 25 August 1939. Um, and that was by Britain. All right. Now, Britain and France will not be able to back down in the face of Nazi aggression because now they've signed this formal alliance saying they're going to right, protect Poland. Excuse me. All right. So we all know the spark that started World War II was Hitler invaded Poland on 1 September 1939. All right. Of course, we're going to give him one more chance. Britain and France is going to give him one more chance. All right. Basically, give him this ultimatum to call off the attack. All right. Of course, he doesn't meet any demands from the ultimatum, and they declared war on 3 September. All right. Within 3 weeks, of course, Poland had been defeated. They could not handle the German sort of military, this Blitzkrieg or lightning war. All right. And 2 weeks into fighting, the Soviet armies, of course, invaded Poland from the east and occupied those Baltic states. All right. And of course, many look at this the importance of this Nazi-Soviet pact because now this was one of the most important short-term causes of the Second World War. All right. So we know that this pact is sort of what ushered into other formal alliances, and now we're into this war. All right. So, of course, we know that Britain or France wanted to really go to war again in 1939. So the problem was that Czechoslovakia, that negotiating with Hitler, could be fatal. All right. And Britain and France went to war because they were forced to, and Hitler had finally pushed them to the point at which they could not resist. That's it, my friends.